Crops have been genetically modifying themselves, according to researchers at the University of Sheffield. They've been studying the genetic makeup of crops from the grass family, including wheat, maize, rice and barley, and say that most of them contain genes from other grass species, which have given them evolutionary advantages. Senior author Dr. Luke Dunning.
There's actually potentially multiple mechanisms which could cause this. But the one thing that we had a signal of in our research was the fact that we found more genes of foreign origin in species which have rhizomes. So rhizomes are modified stems or roots, and they can allow the plant to reproduce asexually, so effectively produce clones of itself. And so if you're able to introduce foreign DNA into those rhizomes, when the plant regenerates, that foreign DNA will be in every cell, including the flowers, and so it will enter the germline that way. So potentially under the soil, where everything's quite cramped and all these roots are growing together, an intertwined mess, you'll have potentially small grafts or fusion of structure. So sometimes you can see it in tree trunks in the wild where they'll grow together. So potentially that's happening in the roots underground of the grasses.
I've described it as crops genetically modifying themselves. Is that way too simplistic?
I suppose that it is simplified in some respects, but the idea is it's an ongoing process. So they are picking up genetic material from other grasses or other individuals, and they are incorporating these into their genomes. And so the idea is it's probably more of a common process than we see. We probably see the tip of the iceberg and those genes which are retained. So in some respects, they are cherry-picking useful genes from other species and helping them to speed up their evolution. So, for example, the genes that we see transferred are those to do with photosynthesis, so energy production, disease resistance, and adaptation to different soil types. So this potentially allows them to grow quicker, grow stronger and grow taller and have an evolutionary advantage.
What does it mean for the arguments around genetic modification of crops, do you think?
Well, it depends really on your preconceptions around the GM debate, because you can actually take the results of the research in two ways. You could argue that if grasses are effectively genetically modifying themselves, why can't we do that if we can move genes between grasses like is happening in the wild? But alternatively, you could say that actually maybe GM technology is a little bit riskier, because previously you would have thought maybe the genes could escape to wild relatives, but actually, in fact, maybe they could escape to any grass through lateral gene transfer. So it depends a little bit on your preconceptions and what your opinions are of the debate.
Dr. Luke Dunning.